Now we're up to Daf Mem Aleph Amid Beis. V'chazan HaKnesses notel Sefer Torah v'nosno l'Rosh HaKnesses. And the Gemara thinks that this is all kidei lechalek kavod lachal kolov l'Rosh HaKnesses l'sgan l'Kohen Gadol. And in Masechet Baba Basra on Daf Kuf Yutes, the Gemara records a controversy amongst the Amoraim whether a Talmud who's on a lower level is allowed to give cover to a Talmud on a higher level in the presence of the Rebbe. Shma Mina, Holkim covered the Talmud Makom Arad. Right, the Rosh HaKnesses and the Sgan and the Kohen Gadol are considered Talmidim relative to the Melech. He's like their Ra. And nevertheless, the Mishnah says that we can be Mechabe b'netilas HaSefer in front of the Melech, going from a Talmud Katan to a Talmud Gadol in the presence of the Rebbe, who is the Melech. Omar Abaye, no. In truth, Ein Chol can cover the Talmud Makom Arav. We pass the Sefer Torah to the Rosh HaKnesses, to the Sgan, to the Kohen Gadol, in the presence of the Melech. No, that's not to be mechabe them. Kula mishum kvodu the Melech. The entire procession of transferring and passing on the Sefer Torah was all for the covet of the Melech, and therefore this is not going to undermine his covet. On the contrary, this is a reflection of his covet. The Mishnah says, "Ramelech omed mekav v'kora Yoshev Agrippas Melech omad v'kibo v'kora omed michlal to Yoshev." It seems that from the fact that the Tana mentions that the Tana was standing, and then he sat, it means that first he sat, and then in order to be Makabel the Torah, he would stand. And if he was sitting, well, even if he's not Mimalchi Beis David, he's allowed to sit. Only the descendants of David is served as king, the Davidic dynasty. They were allowed to sit in the Azara. And the Torah gives them special cover in order to publicly demonstrate that their Malchus is a Malchus Shlema. And they're allowed to sit in the Azor. Shenemar, and the pasuk says in Shmuel Beis Perek Zayin, Vayovo HaMelech David, Vayeshem Lifnei Hashem, Vayomer, etc. So Lifnei Hashem means a place that has Kedushas Azor. Again, this is before the Mikdash, and yet David was permitted to sit there. But other people, even a Melech B'Yisrael, who's not Mizera David, like Malchei Beis Chashmonai, etc., they are enjoined from sitting in the Azor. So how could the Melech be sitting in the Azorah before the Kriyas HaTorah? And the Gemara answers, you're right. In the Azorah, the Melech, who's not Mimalchi Beis David, is prohibited from sitting. But there's no Isur unless you're in what's called the Ezras Yisrael, the Ezras Kohen. That's a Makom Roi Lavoda. But Ezras Nashim, that's not a Makom that's real Lavoda. And therefore the Kedusha is the Kedusha of Harapayis, and he's allowed to sit there. And the Kriya of the Melech was not the Ezras Kohanim or the Ezras Yisrael, but rather Kedomer of Chizda be Ezras Noshim. And the Ezras Noshim had the status, as we said before, of Harabayis. Hachanami be Ezras Noshim. Just like Rav Chizda said it back on Daf Mem with regard to the Kriya of the Kohen Gadol, so too here in the case of Hakel, the Kriya of the Melech was be Ezras Noshim. And there you're allowed to sit. Now, Agrippas HaMelech was machmir on himself, and he stood at the time of Kriyas HaTorah Shibchu Chachamim. So Gemara asks the following kasha: Shibchu Michal the Shaper Ovid. Was this the right thing to do? We have a principle that goes that Melech Shemachal Kvodo ain't Kvodo Mazel. V'Amar Rav Ashi Afilu Man Yomer Nasi Shemachal. Nasi is the head of the Sanhedrin. Shemachal Kvodo Kvodo Machal, because that's basically Kedushas HaTorah. And with regard to Torah, we say Torah delay, but Melech Shemachal Kvodo ain't Kvodo Machal. His malchus is not his own personal malchus, and therefore he doesn't have the right to waive the kavod and be mochel on his kavod. Shenemar som tasim alecha shetei mascha a masa alecha. That malchus b'Yisrael requires ema, and ema means that there's got to be a state of reverence, and there's no room for mechila to waive his kavod. And the Gemara answers mitzvah shiny when the melech was standing for the sake of a mitzvah, and he was mochel his covenant for the sake of a mitzvah, that's called the covenant abore. The Mishnah says, he started crying when they said to him, Achenu ato, nischayvu soni Yisrael kloya, shechnifu lola gripas. This is the misplaced flattery. Although Agrippas, his mother, was Jewish, as we saw before in Rashi, so technically he is Achenu, he is a brother, and he's qualified to be appointed as a king. It was not proper that he should be king, since he was a slave on his father's side, right? His father, the first Agrippas, was an Eved Knani. And it was therefore demeaning for the Jewish nation to have as their king someone who had a tainted lineage. Again, this requires a lot of iyun here. Therefore, the people's protestations of brotherhood constituted a deplorable state or display of flattery. And the enemies of Israel, which is a euphemism, is a reference to Klal Yisrael. Shechnifu lo lagripas. Rav Shimon ben Chalafta, miyom shegavar agrofa shel chanufa, from the day that the power of flattery prevailed and the people flattered Agrippas, nisavsu hadinim, the judges became evus. Evus means perverted. The precedent established by the people who flattered Agrippas because they feared his power more than they feared God carried it over to the judges, who then flattered the powerful litigants whom they feared, and they ruled subjectively in their favor. V'niskalkala maisim. The leaders of the generation saw people transgressing the Torah and flattered them and did not protest. The ein adam yachol lomer lechaveru maaseh gedolim mimasecha. A person should not be able to say, my actions are greater than your actions. Since the leaders did not protest against the sinners, the masses in subsequent generations learned that the evil ways of the sinners, they learned from them, and eventually leading all the people to sin, so that no one could any longer say that he's better than anyone else, because they're all guilty of sins. Dorash Rabbi Yehuda bar Marav Aviteimer Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi mutar lahachnif l'rishoyim b'olam hazeh shenemar lo yikare od l'navol nadiv ulechili lo yomer shoah. A vile person should not be called any longer generous, and about a lustful person it shall not be said that he is noble. And it's permissible to flatter the wicked in this world, because it's a time during which the wicked are ascendant. It's what we call shah misachekes lo. And therefore it's permissible to accord honor to the wicked, to avoid provoking them, but not to try to find favor in their eyes for its own sake, but because there's otherwise a threat to their lives. And the Gemara understands that lo yikare, he shall not be called, and lo yi'omer, it shall not be said. These are prohibitions rather than predictions of the future. So since the verse prohibits flattering the wicked in messianic times, Michlal de B'olam hazeh, in this world, pre-messianic, it's permissible to flatter them, as we said, for the defense of Israel. Rav Shimon Lakish Amar Me'hacha, he derives the heter of Hachnofas Rishon B'olam hazeh from a different pasuk. Kiros pnei Elokim v'tirtzeni. So Yaakov says to Esav, take my gift from my hand, inasmuch as I've seen your face, which is like seeing the face of an angel, as you were appeased by me. So Yaakov is flattering Esav by likening him to an angel in order to protect himself. Upliga de Rabbi Levi, and this understanding of Jacob, of Yaakov's intention, as placed forward by Rav Shimon Lakish, is against the understanding of Rabbi Levi. The Rabbi Levi, Mashal Shel Yaakov v'Esav. The following parable will explain the incident of the meeting between Yaakov and Esav. Lamad Orado. Li'adam shezimin es chavero. He invites his friend to a feast. V'hikir bo shemevakish lahargo. When he came to the feast, he understood that the host wants to kill him. Omer lo, the guest says to his host, Tam tavshil zeh shani toem, v'tavshil shetamti v'beis hamelech. The flavor of this dish that I am tasting is like that of the dish that I tasted in the king's palace. Omar, the host, says to him, Yodale Malka, is the king is an acquaintance of yours? The host was thus afraid, and he didn't kill the guest. And what's the nimshal? Yaakov didn't mean to flatter Esav, but rather to allude to him that he had been used to seeing angels. I see angels all the time. Esav was therefore afraid to kill Yaakov because the angels were amongst the allies of Yaakov. Omer Abelazar kol adam sheyesh bo chanufa mevi afliol, brings anger to the world through his flattery. Shenemar, as the pasuk says in Eov, v'chanfei lev yasimu af. Flattering brings God's anger. V'lo'od el she'ein tfilaso nishmas. God will not accept his tefillah. Shenemar v'lo yishavu bi ki asaman. They shall not cry out to him, with a capital H, when he afflicts them. Right, the Gemara then gives a simon, the anger of a fetus, Gehenom in his hand, and need an exile. Omer Abelazar, Kol Adam sheyesh bo chanufa, afilu ubrin shebimei imon mekalkalin also. Even the fetuses in their mother's womb cursing. Shenemar, as the pasuk tells us in Mishlei, Omar l'rasha tzadikata yikvu amim yizamu. One who tells a wicked person, you are righteous, the peoples will curse him, and the le'umim, meaning the nations of the world, will be antithetical to him. V'ein kovel klola shenemar lo kabo kel. V'ein la'omel la'ubrim shenemar la'omel la'omenatz. Okay, we'll have to stop here because it got late, and the Mirza Hashem will be neder because it's a neder gadol. Tomorrow we'll have to try to fill in the blanks here on Daf Mem Aleph Omid Beis. Okay, then. So let me wish you a great day.